But we can clear Clinton of this anyway. But maybe somebody else planted a bomb on the plane in Anchorage. It's always possible, even if it wasn't Bill Clinton. But according to the National Transportation Safety Board's report, it says probably not, because at 8 a.m. that day, Don Jones took the plane to the refueling pits at Anchorage International Airport. The witnesses there said nothing was put on the plane except for gasoline. And after that, Jones taxied the plane to a ramp near the control tower where the 3 passengers got on. And the witness there said that a small amount of passenger baggage, was also placed on the plane, but that was it. Although, of course, there could have been a bomb in one of the bags.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Well, I think the thing is, Johns was a kind of a cocky pilot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like it.
Well, he was evidently there's statements recorded where he would say he could fly through any condition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit, that kind of makes me, plus everything else that we've talked about, I really don't think that this is a CIA, FBI assassination job.
You don't?
No.
Well, there's not much in the way of evidence. And yet, speaking of cockiness, besides, you're required on planes like this, you're required to carry not only the transmitter, the emergency transmitter, but you're required to carry all kinds of survival supplies. I mean, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And witnesses that saw the plane before it took off said that they didn't see any containers containing survival supplies. You're supposed to have things like you're supposed to have a gun, 2 weeks worth of food for everybody on the plane, heavy clothing, and
probably
fire
a flare
sources,
gun,
and wool blankets,
bear repellent,
transmitters.
Yeah, you're supposed to have all kinds of stuff.
Firewood.
And
no, probably not that.
And there was
that's true.
Yeah, apparently there was nothing on the plane, according to witnesses, that resembled a container full of survival supplies. Yeah, and so he left the survival supplies behind, and he left his emergency transmitter behind. So yeah, you're right. He was kind of a cocky guy.
Is that on all planes, Joe?
Was that in Alaska?
No, just in general. Is it just in Alaska that they're required to?
I think that's Alaska law. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it would actually be a good idea if you're flying anywhere in the lower 48 to carry some survival supplies too.
I think just flying anywhere.
Yeah, because if you crash, there's a good chance you're going to crash in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you better be able to be prepared to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go to another theory. Theory number 2, which is that the plane just crashed. It wasn't bombed or anything like that. Back to Cokie Roberts. She said in 2004 that her father actually had no problems with the Warren Commission's findings. And she said he was also not pushing for the investigation to be reopened. So turns out maybe some of that is not quite so true, although I saw at least one guy on a website that called her a liar with an exclamation point. Yeah.
Was it in all caps, too?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Was it in bold?
Yeah. Yeah. She later said in 2013, she said that Boggs was skeptical of the single bullet theory. But she also said that she believed that Lee Harvey Oswald did act alone, and if Boggs was convinced of something different, then he probably would have said something to her about that. And Hale Boggs never said anything to his daughter about that. Also in 2014, she said that she is sure that the plane is at the bottom of Prince William Sound, and that it will probably never be found.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, because after all, this did take place in Alaska.
And as we said, Alaska does not like planes.
No, people in planes disappear all the time in Alaska. So it's just not that unusual. And again, if they did go down because of bad weather or whatever, you can actually crash your plane. I mean, Don Jones was a very experienced pilot, but even an experienced pilot, if you get in a fog bank, you really lose your bearings. The next thing you know, you're flying upside down and maybe
you're
flying into the ground, flying straight down and not realizing what you're doing, And so when you're not on instruments, and this guy, and he was not on instruments, it's easy to do that.
Yeah, well, I also heard that there was, I swear I read somewhere that the conditions were conducive to icing of the wings.
Yeah, they did not have anything in the way of de-icing equipment on the plane.
Right, which again, if it's cold and it's low visibility,
and you're flying through clouds and stuff like that,
and your wings are icing up, you may not realize how much altitude you're losing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then of course, once you've got ice all over your wings, the maneuverability is out the window.
You're kind of hosed, yeah. Yeah. I think that Jones was aware of icing. I think he probably, if he was able to, would probably have tried to get out of the clouds, and so because that's where most of your ice comes from, I believe.
The clouds.
It's the moisture.
Yeah, the moisture in the clouds. So he probably tried to climb above the clouds, probably. But we don't really know what he did, unfortunately. Oh, see, another theory. This is theory number 3. The pilot, Don Jones, was paid by the CIA to land the plane at a remote airstrip where Hale Boggs was taken prisoner and tortured and interrogated.
Where did you find this?
I made it up. Yeah.
But I mean, realistically,
Yeah,
it's possible.
I like this theory, because it involves waterboarding or whatever they did to him. If they did want to kill him, it actually makes more sense to bribe the pilot and have him land the plane somewhere, because if you blow the plane up with a bomb, well, you don't know where the wreckage is going to end up. It could end up in the water, could end up on land where it's found, and then it becomes obvious that the plane was blown up with a bomb.
Although if you're the FBI, you probably would be taking over. You would be able to say, "Oh, it's terrorism. We got to take over the investigation," and then quote unquote investigate, and then say, "Oh, it was whatever the big group that we don't like at the time is," and everybody would say, "Oh, those guys, that reinforces our urge to do bad things to them," and then.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah.
It's also entirely, if you want to go that route, it's also entirely possible that they could have, A, had a man on the ground, B, had a transponder at a fixed location that they knew it would go over and set the bomb off, or C, they could have had another plane following it to then blow it up and know where the debris went and then know exactly where to go to pick it up.
That's true.
That's
That's the thing is that, okay, if we're going to take this conspiracy to that level, let's not just presume that these guys are the messy jerks who leave their dirty dishes in the sink all night long. They go and clean it up right away.
Yeah.
So they would know where it was at.
But it's the FBI.
Yeah, they would. They probably would. Or they could have just, if they knew the flight path and everything, and they knew basically mostly it was going to be over water, they could have just put a bomb in there with an altimeter trigger.
Or a timer.
Yeah, I think an altimeter trigger would work better. It depends on when you put the bomb in the plane. Like if you put it in, like say the night before, then you probably want to have an altimeter trigger. But
even a timer, you don't know. Maybe the flight gets delayed.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't take off right away,
Yeah.
and then you're kind of posed because they're sitting on the airstrip because it's frozen, and bomb goes off, and then everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, then you claim terrorism.
Right.
Yeah.
See?
Homeland Security sweeps in.
Fail-proof.
Even though Homeland Security didn't exist at the time.
Yeah. It didn't. I know.
How did we protect ourselves?
I know, really. Homeland Security is doing such a great job.
They're holding up my baggage.
Thank God I'm still alive, and I had them to thank for it.
Yeah, the NSA is nothing if not amazing. We love them.
Oh, yeah, we don't.
They
we totally
do
do.
only
We do.
great things.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's
I'm
true.
seeing Devin wink at me. She says that, yes, we love all of those government institutions
We
keeping
love
us
them
safe.
for keeping us safe and not infringing on anything ever.
No.
They did everything right.
Did we
Why
do it
is
right?
there an electronic bug underneath this table? Can
Did
we
do
move
it right?
on?
Yeah.
Did we do it right?
We better move on.
Yes, we did
Okay.
it well.
Okay, good.
Okay. Yeah, I think we convinced them. All right. All right, so I'm going to vote for the plane just crashed in water.
Yeah.
And it's like sitting at the bottom of the ocean right now. Although you never know, maybe it crashed in a glacier and it's going to come popping out one end of it sooner or later. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. Because, the snow in Alaska is melting at record fast rates now. And things that have gone out and been buried in the snow in the last several hundred years are going to start showing up.
Yeah, that'd be
So
fun.
we may, in the next decade, find this Cessna.
We
If
might.
it did indeed crash on land and get buried in a glacier.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, it
for
would be
sure.
cool, but I'm guessing that since this route was mainly over water, like about 80-90% over water, I think they went down to the drink.
And since sea levels are rising, we won't find it, so yes.
No, never. You never know. Somebody might stumble upon it for one reason or another. I mean, it's not necessarily impossible. I mean, technology is marching on. We're finding ways to, get a
Google
clear-
is mapping the bottom of the ocean, and they will find it for us.
They might.
will,
I mean,
yeah.
we're developing technologies that allow us to really accurately scan the bottom of the ocean. We're finding wrecks. Did you hear about that galleon they found off the coast of Colombia?
Yeah.
Oh,
and they don't
man.
know who it belongs to now.
Yeah, they're trying to figure that out.
Because it's
Colombia-
like $7 billion worth of treasure or something
it's
like
some
that.
staggering amount
Yeah.
of treasure. Yeah. So I wish I could have a chunk of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, we should just go
Just a
discover it
billion.
for ourselves.
Yeah.
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 No, because you guys I know care. I like the conspiracy theories on this one.
They're fun.
Yeah, they're fun. I think he was murdered. I think Harold Boggs was murdered.
Okay.
By the FBI, not the CIA.
You think the FBI did it?
Yeah, because like I said, the CIA can't operate on U.S. soil.
Yeah, okay. And then did they threaten or bribe Cokie Roberts?
No, she just doesn't know. Why would she know? How would she know?
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Okay.
Induced her with LSD. That's ridiculous look, by the way.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cokie did actually disappear at one point in the mid-'70s. It's believed that she was sent off to a remote location and brainwashed, and false memories were implanted.
Yeah, see, it's perfect.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Explains everything.
All right, let's hear you two cut it out. Come on, let's keep going here.
We're back.
Is there anything else about this story, Joe?
No, not really.
Okay.
There's so anyway. So Devin thinks the FBI did kill him. I think the plane just crashed. What do you think?
I think the plane just crashed.
Yeah, that's most likely. Okay. All right. Well, another mystery solved. Right on. All right. Now we've come to your favorite part of the podcast, where I tell you some stuff that you already know. If you want to find us and download our episodes, whatever, leave comments. We have a website called ThinkingSidewayspodcast.com. We also have links, so we will post some links to some kind of like websites that are kind of like tinfoil hat kind of websites.
Well, it depends on the ones that you select.
Yeah. Yeah, what else? Of course, we're on iTunes, so you can subscribe. You can leave us a rating and a review. We really like that. You can stream us from anywhere. We're on Facebook, so Thinking Sideways on Facebook. Don't try to friend us, but we do have a group, so you'll want to join the group.
Or the like the page.
Oh, well, yeah, like the page.
Or both.
Yeah. Or both, yeah. Twitter, we're Thinking Sideways without the G. For email, send us an email. We're thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And send us thoughtful, praising emails. Or even if you have criticisms, we've gotten a few criticisms from people, but they're often constructive. Sometimes sort of like, batty, but usually constructive. We are
I believe
also,
the way you were trying to phrase that was not always constructive.
Not always, usually, sometimes, What else? We have a subreddit.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a subreddit. We are also on Patreon.com. That's Patreon, if you haven't heard about it before, is the site where you can go and you can pledge a certain amount of money, like, $1 an episode or whatever. It's totally optional, but it helps us out because we just had to pay we just had to pay a bunch of money for our web hosting. But this is totally optional, because I can't shame anybody or anything like that, because there's a lot of websites I go to all the time that have
there's been a number. This time of year, there's a lot of campaigning, and I have been clicking the close button myself, so I completely understand people going the free route, because I do it myself.
I use Wikipedia all the time. They're begging for money right now, and I'm totally ignoring them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess that's it. You guys have any further thoughts?
Nope.
No.
All right, well, till next week then. Ta-ta, everybody.
Oh, bye, guys.
Later, everyone. This came about, but this theory says that either Harold Holt was part of or despised by the Mr. Asia drug syndicate, and that is why he disappeared.
Sorry, is that a real thing?
So it is a real thing.
The Mr. Asia drug syndicate.
So this was actually a really interesting thing to read about.
Kind of a cool name.
It kind of is. So the Mr.
Funny, because I was just gonna say, like, what kind of dummy names their thing that?
Joe.
Yeah.
Or Steve, apparently.
The Mr. Asia drug syndicate was started by a guy named Marty Johnstone and two other buddies of his whose names escape me at the moment. And these guys were low-level thugs and criminals, but they happened to meet a guy who had a bunch of marijuana who went by the name of Chinese Jack. And he was importing pot. Once they got to dealing for him and getting he was apparently importing literal, no joke, boatloads of weed. Their business took off, and then they started selling heroin and coke, and the whole thing just went gangbusters. And up to the point that, like, the cops actually took this whole drug syndicate serious.
Aren't they supposed to do that?
Well, there's when you've got a couple of punks who are trying to deal dime bags versus guys who are dealing pounds and kilos and kilos and pounds of this stuff like mad. So and apparently they were killing a bunch of people. There's a gentleman by the name of Terry Clark who was involved with them. And I feel like maybe Terry Clark inserted himself into the organization and sort of exerted control over it. And he and everybody else that was in the top of the organization had to flee Australia because Terry Clark pulled an Eddie Nash. You remember Eddie Nash from the Wonderland murders, where he was like going nuts and just killing people in crazy coke benders? Well, he killed a bunch of people, apparently in some plan or some coked out scheme to maintain control of the operation.
So while he was killing people, he just happened to kill the Prime Minister?
Well, you would think that, except here's the thing that I don't understand as to how Harold Holt shows up in the Mr. Asia drug syndicate. The syndicate didn't start till 1973, which is about 6 years after Harold Holt disappeared. So how in the heck he is linked to it? I don't know. Maybe he was, Chinese Jack met him and was his dealer and then offed him. I don't know. Like the connection is so weird and it disappears that I don't know.
I think you're confusing or people are confusing the Mr. Asia drug syndicate with the Mr. Asia Senior Drug Syndicate. So that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, should we move on?
Sure.
Since we went on the fun drug syndicate story, let's go to another fun theory.
Yeah.
Which is that it was a UFO abduction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this one, actually.
Do you?
Well, yeah, it's written by our favorite reputable author.
It really is. So Devin's trying to give away the story here. The UFO connection showed up in a book by John Keel. You may remember John Keel. He wrote a book called Operation Trojan Horse, which is where Harold Holt's disappearance tied to aliens comes from. But he also wrote a very famous book called The Mothman Prophecy.
Yeah!
I found a copy of Operation Trojan Horse on the internet, and I did some scanning through it. And, it says that Harold Holt, his disappearance was predicted by the elements.
I like
elementals.
The elementals.
I like that you didn't put that in quotation marks, though.
Because, because whatever, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
The elementals, I don't know what that means.
Presumably.
It's one damn sentence in that silly book, and I don't know what it is. Do you guys have any? Can somebody explain it to me?
I would say the elementals are probably kind of like either spirits or like sort of like
the UFO book.
Yeah, but it's
also Mothman Prophecy, so it's not just UFOs.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, but the elementals are probably like spirits that inhabit the world. They're like they've been here since the very beginning, or maybe he's just talking about the periodic table of the elements. I'm not sure.
The elementals could also be the name of aliens.
Based on what Joe said, I'm glad I didn't even bother to capitalize the word elementals.
Okay. Okay, fine. So probably not a UFO, but fine, whatever.
I mean, nobody saw any UFOs. I mean, there could have been underwater UFOs, I suppose.
True.
Totally could have. They just got a recording of an underwater UFO.
UFOs?
Yeah, there's only one recorded.
UFO.
There's only one recorded underwater sighting, and that is in The Abyss, the movie. I don't think
they have a sound recording now. It's called the Bio.
I remember
Twang. The Bio Twang.
Is that the one that just came out like today? It's the one they're accounting for all those alien noises coming out of the something.
The Mariana Trench.
The Mariana Trench.
Yes, I did see that come through. Yeah. I haven't had a chance to read up on that.
It's okay. You can just listen to it. It sounds literally like exactly what if somebody were like, hey, I need a sound effect for a monster in my like action film, I'd be like, I have the one for you. Mm-hmm. It's this.
Is this something that came from not Pacific Rim, but that crappier version Atlantic Rim?
No.
Oh, damn.
There was actually an Atlantic Rim?
Yeah, there was a sequel.
Oh, there was.
Okay, so probably not WUFOs.
Yeah, okay, not WUFOs. Let's go. Holy crap, we got a bunch more theories here.
Yeah,
okay.
we do.
Next theory is that, in matter of fact, Harold Holt was actually killed prior to the 17th, and the whole thing is a cover-up.
Okay, actually, I guess I'm going to bump my suicide theory down to 3, because I like this one.
You already said it was at 3.
No, I said it was at 2.
Oh,
you said it was at 3.
Yeah.
I put it at 17. Okay, so there's a gentleman, his name is Gary Simons. He has made a claim, and this is all on his website, harold-holt.com, that, well, he means business with, and this claim is that Harold Holt was killed, and the reason was that he would not support the construction of Pine Gap.
Yeah.
Pine Gap, for anybody who doesn't know, is a joint Australian and U.S. satellite ground station officially, which is the official, actual truth. So stop saying it, because that's really what it is, and we're totally on board with that. Not an alien installation, so stop asking.
It's Area 51, I know.
Simons, but Simon says that it's because Holt wouldn't support the construction of Pine Gap, and that Pine Gap is actually some sort of secret operation base, and he was involved in the removal of Harold Holt's body from Harold Holt's residence the night before. So on the night of the 16th, he was involved by taking Holt's body out of his house to a boat, and then taking that boat out to meet another boat on the water, which then transported the body, I guess, to Cheviot Beach, where it was going to be dumped.
And then, but it wasn't found, so presumably it was eaten by sharks or something?
I'll be honest with you, Joe, I don't know. Simons, he sounds credible at times. Like, he makes statements that are rather credible and logical and seem to make sense. And then there are times that just it doesn't make any sense. Like, he says he was involved in, he was a member of the Australian Navy. Mm-hmm. And, he lists some stuff. But then how he went from swabbing the deck to doing wet work, I can't figure out.
Well, it's actually possible.
So, Devin, you're going to get to narrate today.
Aww.
So, Simons has something on his website that describes it, and I would like you to read that for our listeners.
With an Australian accent, please.
Oh, we're up here. As part of my duties, I engaged in several clandestine operations, one of which was the removal of the body of then Australian Prime Minister Harold Holt from his home out to a waiting fishing boat in the night before it was reported he disappeared while swimming.
So that's what he says on his website. He also invokes the second law, or is it the second law of the universe, as he calls it? He constantly invokes the second something of the universe, second rule, second law. But I read the guy's stuff and tried to give him a fair shake. And in the end, I had to discount him because he sounds a little crazy, Tom.
Yeah, I've seen his website, and I read that letter. Website.
Oh, he puts all his emails on his website. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was a letter sent to the inquest that was in 2003 to 5.
Yes.
And he sent them, and actually, although a few of the claims in the letter were kind of questionable, mm-hmm. it actually appeared to be well written and quite coherent.
And that's why I have a problem.
Not that I'm saying I believe the guy at all. But some stuff that he writes appears to be coherent.
Yeah.
And it's not written by a semi-literate or total whack job or anything like that. But at the same time, he believes some outlandish things.
Yeah, that's why I really for a long time tried to give him just, I was like, okay, I'm just going to read it. I'm going to hear him out. But there's a point where I had to just stop because it's I feel like it's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and so I'm not really sure what to make of his statement. He makes a lot of statements about a lot of other things, aside from Harold Holt.
But I do like the idea of... I'm always kind of into those ideas, like when we talk about plane crashes with the zombie plane idea, where it's, everybody on there was actually just a corpse, and it was it was a plant. Yeah, like everybody on the plane, right? So same with this. I'm always kind of drawn to these theories, whether they have good credit or not. I'm always drawn to the idea that that person wasn't actually at that place where they were reported to be. Why his lover would go along with it, I'm not totally sure. But
why would she and 3 other young people and the guard that was at the guard station, like suddenly our cast of characters who have to be involved and agree to go along with it starts to grow.
I guess she's the big question mark for me, because like the rest of them they're not close associations with him, so money helps a lot. But if you have a personal relationship with someone, I think usually you're a little less likely to do that. But it would explain maybe why it was her, not the wife, for instance.
Maybe.
Maybe she was easier to bribe. I don't know.
But there were a lot of people involved. Also, if he had to remove the body, transport it down to a boat.
No, I disagree with the method that he's proposing. I'm just saying I like the idea. I'm sorry. I think the idea is interesting.
It's intriguing.
That Harold Holt could have died before, and that it was a...
Oh, no, it's an intriguing idea, I agree. But like as Steve was saying, the circle is fairly wide, but it gets wider. Because we're not just talking about the several people that went down to the beach with him, but the guys who had to go retrieve the body. And let's forget that he retrieved the body. That means somebody else murdered him. Mm-hmm. Right? So then they went down and retrieved the body.
Supposedly he talked to his maid that morning. She was at his residence, so supposedly she was, like, again.
Yeah, it does get bigger.
It just gets bigger and bigger.
Okay,
and then they have to take the boat, or they have to take the body down to a marina, presumably, or a beach or somewhere, where they could potentially be spotted by other people loading into a boat, which goes out to another boat, which, by the way, has more people on it.
But that doesn't have that's not necessary. They could have pulled a car up to his house and thrown him in the boot. I mean, the boat thing I don't think is necessary at all.
Oh, that's what he said.
For disposing but that's what I'm saying, is that I don't really give a crap about what this guy's claiming. I'm just saying that the concept of Harold Holt dying before the 17th.
No, I get
whether
that.
he was killed. I
agree
or died some other way.
This whole transportation situation is dumb. That didn't happen.
It is.
But I'm just saying that
since the guy's putting forth the theory that he was murdered ahead of time and his body was transported on the 17th to out to sea.
16th.
Yeah, no, he was murdered on the 16th, but his body was transported
during the night.
During the night, 16th, 17th.
Okay.
And then it becomes like, and since he is the only one who's making the claim that Holt was murdered prior to the 17th.
Which is one of the reasons.
Shoots the whole thing out of the water, right?
Well, except for that, I wouldn't believe. I mean, why would he come forward? I mean, the people who would have been paid to keep their mouth shut are presumably doing their job and keeping their dang mouth shut.
Remarkably, nobody's killed him yet.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I think it's an interesting theory, but I agree that it wasn't Gary Simons.
Gary Simons,
had nothing.
Yeah, no,
to do with
it doesn't make any sense. So I'm willing to move on to the next theory if you guys
please.
are.
Okay.
So our next theory is that in fact Harold Holt was killed by the CIA, because the CIA is involved in everything.
Of course they are.
We were talking at one point about the fact that Harold Holt had come out in support of Lyndon B. Johnson, and he was supporting the war effort in Vietnam against the North Vietnamese. This theory says that through the course of 66 and then into 67, Holt began to have second thoughts, and he began to think that maybe this was a bad idea and he should possibly reduce his troop forces that were serving over there.
Weird.
In an effort to stop that from happening, because that would be egg on the face of the U.S. president, the CIA went in and somehow assassinated him, whether they found him in the water, which we've already talked about the multitude of problems with that, or if they began some program of poisoning him so that he was in a weakened state when he went in the water, so that he would then naturally succumb, whether it be that trip or another time when he was in the water. I don't know, but that's what this theory says.
Mm-hmm.
I really would be surprised to see the CIA step up to that level.
Well, I think so, but again, you got to remember this is Australia. It's parliamentary politics. Holt wasn't just running off like a loose cannon doing whatever he felt like.
It wasn't as he was the supreme commander who could say whatever he wanted to do.
No, it was like, he essentially was a representative of his party. And so if he truly wanted to be out of Vietnam and the whole policy was popular with every single other person in his party. Remember, you're prime minister. The most you want, you don't necessarily want what's good for Australia. What you want to do is you want to hold your coalition together, because that means you get to keep being prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't want your coalition coming apart. So you're not going to defy your party. If your party has a major rift in it over it, you might try to heal it or whatever over the Vietnam thing. But again, if he was turning against it, it's because public opinion was turning against it. Many members of his own party were turning against it.
Which they were.
And so removing him solves nothing in terms of,
he's not the man who pushes the button to stop it all.
No,
the point.
There's a lot of different people involved.
So your point is this is also a dumb theory.
Yeah, that's kind of well, yeah, and also
summary ability.
Yeah.
Well, and this is one of the things too. I mean, because we've heard the same thing with the JFK assassination, which is the CIA, wanted him dead because he wanted to pull.
He was going to yank us out of the war.
Yeah,
right.
nobody has ever explained to me exactly why the CIA was so heavily invested in the war in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never understood. I mean, nobody's ever explained that one to me.
So we're going to get a lot of emails on that. We're going to set up a very special email address for Joe only.
Yeah.
And we'll give that to you later on.
Okay.
That email address is thattheoryisdumb@gmail.com.
We really should set that up one day. Let's move on to our next theory. Our next theory is quite the opposite of this theory, and it is that Harold Holt was killed in a botched abduction attempt, and that abduction attempt was carried out by war, not supporters, detractors? Is that the word I want to use? People who were in opposition to the war effort?
Yeah, dissenters, or whatever you want to call them.
So these people were opposed to the war, and what they were probably hippies who smelled like patchouli, but their whole plan of attack here was they were going to abduct Harold Holt and hold him hostage up until such point that he would say, "We quit, we're getting out of Vietnam," at which point they would let him go with a joint and a daisy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I made up most of that. Yeah. But the theory is that it was an abduction attempt that went totally wrong, and the whole basis of the abduction was so that they could stop the war effort.
Yeah, and what happened was he was captive, and they were out of the room, and he spotted a tray full of brownies, and he was hungry, so he scarfed them down, and he had a fatal overdose of pot brownies.
Yeah, because that totally is a thing.
Okay. Totally a thing.
All right, Joe, I think we had a little fun there.
Well, yeah, no, this is a serious...
No, you know what? Actually, I like the Chinese theory better than this because it simply does not involve hippies.
There's that, and also of course, their plan was completely idiotic. It never would have actually worked.
It's silly to pluck him out of the water like that. Yeah, I mean, because... Well, let's just not keep going down this road. Why don't we move to the last theory on our docket here?
Yes,
another one?
Our final theory is that the entire thing was a case of accidental drowning. For this, I believe that the best way to sum it up is that it is as simple as a man going out into the water when he shouldn't have and overestimating his abilities in that water and succumbing to those elements for that mistake.
Sure. I mean, and as you said, he could have gotten clonked on the head by a log. Great whites. There's lots of them in Australia.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you on the great whites bit because I got a couple of things I want to share, and great whites play in that.
Oh, okay. But anyway, but there are things that can get you out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you swim into a school of jellyfish, for example,
hell
that's kind of bad news.
You would go down. You can't help it.
It is entirely possible if it's really rough out to catch a wave. And I've swam in the ocean before, and you can catch a wave in the face, and suddenly, if you get it at just the right time, or I guess I had to say wrong.